Climb into the cockpit with pilot and Link Square's Chief Legal Officer, Tim Perilla, as he invites legal leaders aboard to share advice that will help you navigate even the most turbulent times of in-house counsel work. We'll cover a range of topics from data privacy to legal team structure to public company transactions and beyond. You don't want to miss this series. Fasten your seatbelt and prepare for takeoff. You're listening to Cockpit Counsel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cockpit Counsel. My name is Tim. I'm the Chief Legal Officer at Link Squares. As always, with us, we have our producer, Alyssa Rosino. And if you enjoy our content, give us a like, follow, subscribe on all the socials, and let's get into it. So today, we're going to be talking legal ops with Curt McDaniel. Curt, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So we start every show the same way.
Okay.
What is your pre-flight ritual?
Yeah, it's actually pretty boring. So
Okay.
I make sure that I have the materials I need on my laptop or my iPad so I can work on the plane.
Nice. All right, that's good. That's a productive way to go.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your career. You're living in Switzerland now, which is awesome. This is very, very cool. But tell us a little bit about your career path.
Yeah, I'm from Richmond, Indiana.
Okay.
Born and raised there, so I'm a Hoosier.
All right.
And I went to undergraduate at Purdue, which is there in Indiana. I got my law degree from Indiana University.
Yeah.
Worked for a law firm in Columbus, Ohio for a couple of years. Realized I didn't like that very much.
Columbus, Ohio, or
Columbus.
the law firm?
Columbus is okay. I like Columbus.
Yeah.
No, the law firm. Yeah, being a young associate.
Yeah.
I was in the office almost every holiday except Christmas for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I saw the senior partners were in there too. I realized this is never going to change.
Yeah.
And the work wasn't compelling enough for me.
What kind of work were you doing?
Corporate work.
Okay.
So transactions.
Yeah.
But as a young associate in a big
Right.
law firm. So
Yeah.
and then I joined Eli Lilly and Company.
Okay.
And I spent 16 years there.
Yeah.
So they're Indiana based, so it was kind of natural for me. And I enjoyed being in-house. I enjoyed it so much that I got my MBA at night school at Lilly. They helped pay for it.
Oh, nice.
Because I really like the business part of it, blending the legal aspects with the business.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I also got the opportunity to work internationally with Lilly, which I really enjoy. I like the international experiences. I'm back in Switzerland, so
Right.
I enjoy that. And spent several years in London with them, came back to Indianapolis, and then realized from a career path perspective, there really weren't many more opportunities for a lawyer outside the U.S. at Lilly at my level.
Right.
At the same time, Prozac went off patent, stock price went down, so it
Right.
just seemed like a good time to leave. And actually what I did at that point was write fiction stories. And I
Okay.
spent a year and a half writing stories. I had 5 short stories published. There's links to them on my LinkedIn account.
Nice.
I had a draft of a novel finished and shopped it around, never got picked up, but maybe someday.
Yeah.
And then that recharged me. I accomplished what I wanted to do.
Are you still writing, like, in your spare time?
I'm
your
taking down
spare
notes.
time.
Yeah, I did for a few years after that, but it's too busy.
Right.
And the writing style for fiction is so different from the legal and business writing
Yeah.
style that you really have to change and get in the right mindset and get in the practice of it.
Yeah.
Think differently, write differently.
Yeah.
And so while I was doing that, I knew it's unlikely I could make a career of doing that.
Right.
So I was looking for something smaller than Lilly, which is kind of large and bureaucratic.
Right.
Something privately owned, because Lilly, I could see people making short-term decisions based on the stock price.
Yeah.
And
As happens.
yes, as
Yeah.
happens. And also, frankly, something European-based from a quality of life perspective.
Yeah.
And then an opportunity came up at Ferring Pharmaceuticals, where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And they had just relocated their headquarters from Copenhagen to Switzerland.
Okay.
And lost a lot of people in the process, lost most of their lawyers in the process. So they needed experienced pharmaceutical lawyers. So I talked with the GC. We signed a 6-month consulting agreement. I traveled back and forth on a monthly basis. And then we made it permanent. And that was 18 years ago. So it's worked out really well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, and you said you're between Geneva and Montreux?
Right.
It's such a cool part of the world.
Yeah, and in fact, my wife and I just became Swiss citizens. We've been there so long. So slowly, I'm not great at languages.
Right.
And I had a background in German, but we're in the French-speaking area. So
Yeah.
it was actually COVID that kind of pushed us to say, since I wasn't traveling anymore,
Right.
and we really couldn't talk to our neighbors or talk to other people, we said, okay, we need to commit to speaking French. And one way to do that is to apply to be a citizen, because you have to pass a language test to do that.
Okay.
Oh.
How's your French now?
It's an intermediate level, so it's
Okay.
there. So I work on it every day. I do Duolingo because I like to gamify things. So you're in
Yeah.
the league every week, and so every day I do. Even this morning I did it.
It's awesome. Have you toured the Large Hadron Collider over there?
I have actually. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We didn't get a chance to do it. It's
Yeah.
one thing I was really disappointed
Yeah.
about. It's worth doing though.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, there's all kinds of technology everywhere. I don't know what it does, but it looks pretty cool. So.
Yeah. So let's talk legal ops.
Okay.
First, tell us a little bit about the profile of your legal team. How big are you all?
Yeah. So now, I mean, and so we have legal, IP, compliance, privacy, corporate secretary, all part of the team. That whole group is roughly 70 people, I would say, at
Okay.
global, regional, down to the affiliate level.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's a pretty massive team. So how do you keep the trains running on time?
It's not easy sometimes. And it's, one is to have, we have developed a legal services vision. And it's something we actually put in place 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
That kind of gives us a direction of where to go, what we're supposed to be doing for the company and how we're supposed to do it. And then mapping out more specifics in terms of, every GC CLO I talk to has the same issues. There's so much work. Our people are too busy with kind of the busy work, and we need to free them up. So you have to separate kind of the higher risk, high complexity issues from the mid to lower risk and complexity issues.
Right.
And so then we kind of mapped it out, with technology, with outsourcing, and trying to convince the lawyers that this was a good thing for them, that they can focus on those higher value issues with their clients hands-on, and they shouldn't be spending time on other things.
Yeah. Change is always difficult. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, the legal profession is a very conservative profession, right? When I was in law school, I was reading English cases from the 1600s, right? So it's kind of there's this resistance to change built into the profession. But there's a lot of smart people, and I think some of them, they're not, more and more are starting to realize there is a benefit to this. The legal operations helps free me up so I can be a better lawyer. I can work on the things where I add more value and I enjoy doing it more.
Do you find that the rest of the business is really pressuring that change as well?
There's a lot of pressure, from a lot of different directions. As financial pressure, obviously, headcount pressure. So it really I think legal ops fits into that very well, right? It's doing the same thing the rest of the business is doing.
That's right.
And you start speaking the language of business, and you start collecting data, financial data and other data to show, hopefully, that it's working. And actually, that's kind of where we are now. I'm very focused on getting data, because my hypothesis is, by implementing legal tech, by outsourcing, by simplifying, that we won't need as many. We won't have to increase headcount as fast. We won't have to use outside counsel as much. Costs should not grow. I don't think they'll go down, but they shouldn't grow as fast. And that's a hypothesis. Now I want the data to prove it. And my chairman wants the data to prove it.
Of course.
But his hypothesis, by the way, is costs will go down. I said, no, maybe they just won't go up as fast. So so anyway, we're in the process of, we have kind of preliminary data that looks pretty good for that narrative, but I want better data to prove that narrative.
Yeah, that's always the showing those positive business outcomes is like what in the data, like in context, are you able to actually show that embracing the technology has really helped with. And it's kind of common to have people thinking about it like, oh, our costs will go down. It's like, in the long run, right?
Well, they would have gone up here. Now they're here, right? But it's hard to prove that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, so my entire career has been relatively early stage startups and growing through it. And I've found that that's always the first mentality. Oh, we're spending too much money on outside attorneys. Let's bring one in house. And I'm always just like, listen, not saying your costs are going to go down, because they probably won't, but you're going to get more out of it.
Yeah.
You get more bang for your buck because I'll manage them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You don't have to. So.
Well, and one thing we're tracking with outside counsel now is not spend, but hours. Because their bill by hour rate just going up in a crazy manner.
Right.
So I want to know, how by hours, how much are we using them year on year? And it does look like it's been flat the last few years, which is good.
That's a good thing.
I want to, shift work to outsourcing partners, or bring it in-house, make sure we have the right expertise in-house, and then be very careful and limited about using outside counsel. And it looks like that's working.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like if it's a big enough risk where I need outside counsel, then I just manage them really tightly.
Yeah.
And
I found I need to work with my lawyers a bit. There's a habit of an issue comes up, they pick up the phone, call outside counsel. And sometimes I say, but you know the answer. You're an expert in this area. You don't need to call them. There may be sometimes it's a twist. You want to bounce it off them. That's fine. But most of the time, you need to have the confidence that you can answer this yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when I was at DraftKings, it was an exercise in certain venture financings. You have to have outside counsel. Doing your public filings, you have to have outside counsel. Is not it's just not an option. You need that liability shift for the shareholders, right? It's not about me, and it's not about you. I'm sure you're very capable of putting together the filings, right? But it's more about all right, the shareholders need to see that, right? And I would love to be able to have technology help replace some of that and provide some of that comfort for those types of tasks where it's it's not actually that challenging. At the end of the day.
Yeah, those are kind of things again that I think most lawyers would be glad to give up, right? It's not fun. It's like one NDA. I don't know if you guys have moved to that. We moved to it last year, which is just a standard balanced CDA that both sides, there's no negotiation. If both sides have agreed to it up front, you just sign it and move on. The lawyers don't need to be involved, and things move quickly. And I think this is one thing, all the lawyers agree, that makes sense, because we've all spent a lot of time on CDAs, and at the end of the day realize we probably added very little value in that process.
Yeah. There's a company, a group of folks who are trying to do that with a handful of different types of agreements.
I'm all for that.
I don't know if you know them. It's bond terms.
I don't know. Okay. Yeah. I know. I don't know that name, but I know in that field that there are standard documentation.
Yeah, that's what they're going for. I know we used to use the IAB terms for purchase, just basically purchase of digital advertising. Is just a standard set of terms, and everybody in the industry uses it, and it makes things really, really convenient.
Yeah, and I'm actually pushing the law firms we use for business development deals. So I said, why do we negotiate all the terms? All the the boilerplate stuff, the notice provisions. That should be standard for everybody. Don't waste time on it. Now let's focus on the 20% that's really important.
Yeah, exactly.
But everyone has their form they pull out, and it's different from the other law firm. And it's just,
we could do a lot better as lawyers if we were truly honest with ourselves and stopped trying to protect, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of my goals is to limit the need for lawyers, and that kind of scares lawyers, but in a way that, like we're just talking about with this language, kind of the boilerplate language that we renegotiate all the time. We don't need to do that, right? That's just creating work for lawyers. Let's take care of that, put that aside, and use lawyers where they're really adding value.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I can see where it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because for folks that are early in their career, going through agreements like that really helps, helps to understand the issues that can come about, and it elicits the kind of questions that grow and develop that depth of knowledge for attorneys. Why is there a warranty disclaimer? And when you have a warranty and the warranty disclaimer, it's they're completely different warranties, right? And so when you start to get it, or even limitation and liability, understanding categorical exclusions of damages versus caps, and all that's without going through that, if everyone just agreed on it, it would be really difficult to actually develop younger attorneys. But that being said, if everyone agreed to it, then we wouldn't really need that depth of knowledge, except on the bench, right?
Yeah. But no, I think it's a fair point, and also with technology, that's going to start doing more work that the associates used to do, right? So, and that was part of their training. Yeah. So now we need to start thinking, how are they going to get trained if they're not doing that work? Right. And it was actually maybe not the most efficient way to train people on those things.
That's true.
But we need to find other ways to do it.
Yeah. So where are you on your legal tech journey right now?
Well, this year specifically, we are improving what we have. We've implemented a lot over the years, from an e-billing tool, a contract management system, a patent and trademark system. And now we're focused on, let's get data from our systems and figure out how we can make them better. And so the first challenge is getting good data from our systems. Right. And so last year we hired a legal data scientist to help us with that. So we're actually now I think just a few weeks away from completing our data pool for our contract management process. And then I want to start looking at it and seeing, what do we learn from this? What's there? What is the story it tells us? Or what is the questions it provokes from us? Right. So we're going to start that process.
That's awesome. And then once you have the data, it's all about putting it in context, right?
Right. Yeah, and like I said, and seeing how to improve the process. Where are things taking time and why? Is it the type of agreement? Is it the individuals involved? Is it different departments? And how can we help speed things along?
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you, with your attorneys, maybe any that are a little bit hesitant around adoption, how do you, other than just saying you need to do this, right? How do you put the velvet glove on the steel fist?
Yeah, and it's been a challenge, and I agree. And I think it's a challenge for legal operations, because they come to the lawyers saying, hey, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm here to help you be a better lawyer. And the lawyer's natural reaction is, yeah, right. I know how to practice law. Leave me alone. Right. So I think part of it is trying to get the quick wins, like the one NDA. I think that is something, again, lawyers can understand. They appreciate the value of. The contract management system's been more challenging, frankly, because they are, at least our legal team was used to a more personal relationship with their business partners. You know, they talk and they come by their desk and they solve issues. And now it's have your business partner start the agreement in our contract management tool. And then if you need to be involved, you may not need to be, then it will come to you. And that is a challenge. So I think we've had to push them and show them the data, why things are moving faster, and actually it's better for the business. And actually then they have more time to work on other things.
Yeah, that's one of the most difficult things, is getting people to change what they've been doing in the past, right? And it's like, well, if you've identified a problem that you're actually trying to solve with the technology, then it's not like things were going perfectly before. Right.
Yeah, and one other thing we've just implemented recently to help bring the lawyers along, because I mentioned, I think there is a bit of resistance from the lawyers to legal operations coming in. How can you understand my issues, my needs as a lawyer? And they are experts in the law, so I understand that skepticism. So we've now taken one of our lawyers who's really embracing innovation, in addition to her day job, given her a title, legal innovation. Right? So she's working hand in hand with the legal operations team to move things forward. So this way, the lawyers feel like they're represented, they're part of the process. So when we start making changes to the contract management system, they know their interests and concerns are being watched out for.
That's good. I mean, being able to bring somebody from within the legal team who's been doing that work to become a champion for that innovation and really embrace the legal ops is absolutely the right way to do it.
So I think it'll work. And it's someone that people like, respect, and they will listen to. So I think she will help bring people along.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess how did you initially just say, we need technology here? What was going on in your that just said, all right, this demands my attention now?
Okay. Well, if you want to have the origin story. So it goes back to 2016. I was seeing all these articles about AI. And I was trying to figure out, is this hype? Is it not? Is there something there? And I at that point, I was not CLO, but I convinced our then CLO to let me go to an AI conference in Phoenix. And it was like top one of the year. All the top tech companies were there. All the top top universities from around the world were there. And I went, and there were thousands of people, highly motivated, highly engaged in all aspects of AI, and tons of resource behind them. And I could see things are going to change. This is dramatic. In the next 5 to 10 years, everything's going to change.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking, wow, I need to look at this for legal, because a lot of the stuff going on there was also in the legal field. And at the same time, I had data showing the cost of outside counsel was going up, and and of course there were budget pressures. So I started talking to, we didn't have anyone in legal ops at that point. So I started talking to an outside group up level that provide kind of legal operations support. And they came to Switzerland, talked to me and my team, and we did a legal tech roadmap. And we implemented the e-billing system was kind of low-hanging fruit, the contract management system a bit tougher. And as we started that process, that's when I started building a legal operations team, because I had no time to implement these things, and they take a lot of preparation. So we built that roadmap, and we started building the legal operations team along with it.
I think in particular, a lot of people have trouble implementing CLM, and it really is more of a change management thing than anything else, because just about every company in the world is contract heavy, right? And lawyers have a particular way of doing things, right? And I know for myself, like my team at DraftKings, it was, I always told them, like, you're not done with the contract when you're done reviewing it and the language is agreed to. It's not done. Your job is not done on that contract until it's fully countersigned and it's in our system, and you've identified these like 8 things that at our next financing I know are going to be part of the disclosure schedules. That's it. And like if you don't track those 8 things, then I don't care if you're up until 3 o'clock in the morning doing due diligence and putting together disclosure schedules, because you're going to do it, not some associate at a firm. So you can do it now, or or you can do it then. So that's always. But you have to have that, like, okay, it's an entire life cycle, right? It's a contract life cycle that lawyers are supposed to be managing.
I tell you, the life cycle goes on. I've been at Ferring long enough now that I've been in litigation over agreements I've negotiated. Right. So you see, you spend all that time on the language, and in a few years you look at it and you're like, what were we thinking? Why did we use that language? And you see someone else interprets it a totally different way than you expected. So you realize, trying to over-lawyer the agreement doesn't really help, right? There's always going to be issues and risks, so you need to manage it and be practical.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And what are your predictions for the next, let's say, 5 years in legal tech, and what advice do you have for listeners?
Well, what I'm seeing, I think, is with generative AI is easier interfaces with text systems, right? That it's going to be more natural language, either typing or speaking to it. So right now, like our contract management system is not user-friendly. But if you can have a natural language discussion with it, then I think that the adoption and use will be much better. So I really think it's going to be that user interface from a natural language perspective.
Interesting. And what advice do you have for a listener that's maybe earlier in their career and they're thinking about legal tech, and just what should their mindset be? I
would say, one, embrace it. Learn as much as you can about it, but also be very skeptical, right? Because there is a lot of hype, and legal tech is not a solution in and of itself. You need to identify what is our problem and make sure whatever process you have, activity you have, that it's as efficient as possible. You've identified all aspects of it, and then you can bring legal tech to put on top of it. But look at all opportunities, go to conferences, talk to all the vendors, learn what they're doing, build relationships, and then think very carefully about when you want to jump in, and do a lot of preparation before you jump in.
Definitely. And you touched on change management earlier, but do you have any advice for people on maybe if they're in a new role and they're building those relationships that they're going to need cross-functionally?
One is to understand who that is. Your business partner or whoever it is in another function. You need to understand what world do they live in, what's important for them, what are their business objectives, and try to help them be successful, right? And so, like, I think of the contract management system was definitely cross-functional, and we really needed to keep hyper-focused on the users, right? They're going to, it's not so easy, it's different from what they're used to, so we need to make sure they understand we listen, we hear them, and we're making changes to address their concerns. Even if it's not as fast as they would like, at least they feel like they're being heard.
Definitely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, we end every episode with some rapid fire questions.
All right.
So if you're ready, what is your hot take on legal tech?
I say embrace it, learn as much as you can, but be skeptical.
What is your number one tip for driving innovation?
Just forget about the past, forget about how we've done things, right? And when you're presented with something, keep asking why. Why do we do it this way? And again, so you dig deeper to figure out why are we doing it this way.
Yeah. What is the best career advice that you've ever given or received?
Yeah, it's advice actually I've given to myself. Over time, I've realized I need to be more authentic to who I am, like taking time to be a writer for a year and a half. For me, that was a very big step forward, very empowering. And so as I've gone on in my career, I've tried to step into myself even more, be more authentic, follow who I am, what I like to do.
That's awesome.
And what's a charity or a cause that's close to your heart that we can amplify and get our users to check out and support?
Anything to do with access to justice. The U.S. Legal system is so expensive, so complex that a lot of people have no access to it. So whether it's technology or support, anything to do with access to justice.
Awesome. Well, Curt, thanks so much for coming on. It's been an awesome conversation.
It's great to be here.
Really
Thanks.
appreciate you.
All right.
And thank you all. We'll see you next time.